Man, my cheeks hurt after doing that. Oh, greetings, Ponies and Pegasus, this is the Watchful Pony here. Sorry about that, apparently I was elected to blow the Rift Horn this year. What's the occasion, you might ask? Well, it's Season 7, snitches! That's right, Season 7 is finally here! I'd like to congratulate everyone who managed to survive the hiatus. And for those who didn't, well, Phoenix Downs and any other Resurrection Jesus juice of your choosing is available in the lobby. But for those that did survive and are watching this video right now, you're probably all wondering what my thoughts on the episode were. And that's a fair point to ask considering it's got a lot to live up to. I mean, every single season premiere has tried to up the ante in every single regard, being more adventurous and more exciting than the last. The only exception probably being Season 6, and while I did like the premiere just fine, even I'll admit it's not as great as the other ones. So I guess the ultimate question is, did Season 7 deliver an ultimately awesome premiere? Well, yes, but not quite how you'd expect it to. What do we mean by that? Well, join me as I take a look at Celestial Advice and All Bottled Up. And yes, I'm fully aware this isn't technically a two-parter. It's treated as a two-parter, so I'm counting it as 2 episodes, so I'm reviewing them both back to back.
While ago, if you would ask me what I watch in my spare time, no, I probably wouldn't tell you what was really on my mind. But lately I've been thinking of a reason I should hide the vehemence of dimension if we're painful when it feels so good inside. What can I mention?
Starting with Celestial Advice, the episode picks up immediately after the Season 6 finale, in which Starlight and all of her friends are getting congratulated and honored for saving Equestria. And in case you missed the Season 6 premiere, which why would you, here's sudden exposition Spike to help you out. Okay, in the interest of fairness, A, Spike is trying to distract Starlight Glimmer, so it would make sense why he would state the obvious, and B, they actually do poke fun at it a little. See that Exposition Express? That is how you deliver exposition without coming off as forced as all hell. Give a good reason why they'd be expositioning, or at least make fun of it. So then we cut to the ceremonies themselves, where Discord being Discord messes with Twilight and brings something up. Now that Starlight Glimmer has pretty much defeated Chrysalis and saved an empire, she might be beyond friendship lessons. And that Twilight will cook something extra special up for Starlight now that she's done this. You know, even though I know Discord is trolling Twilight, he kinda has a point. I mean, the whole reason Starlight Glimmer was introduced was to be Twilight's student. And once Twilight was pretty much done being Celestia's student, she's sent into Alicornism. After completing a great task, maybe not necessarily defending the empire, but she learned an amazing, beautiful lesson about self-sacrifice, which I think is far better than saving an empire in all honesty. And now Starlight, using her own wits and finesse with friendship, was able to accomplish the same thing Twilight did and has completed a great task. So it only makes sense that Starlight would need to do something next in order to ascend to the next level, although without all the alicornification, because spoiler alert, she doesn't become an alicorn by the end of the episode, or at least isn't an alicorn yet. No, not yet, stay back over there, not yet. Anyway, Twilight in a fit of panic decides to talk to Celestia about what to do since he was pretty much in the same situation. And then Twilight comes to the conclusion that she has to send Starlight away. You know what? I would kinda like to see that in all honesty. I mean, think about it, Starlight Glimmer taking a pilgrimage throughout all of Equestria, that'd be pretty interesting. Sadly though, we don't technically actually get that, and yes, I know I'm jumping the gun a little, but still. Now don't get me wrong, it's not a criticism towards the episode, mostly because I don't consider missing potential a valid criticism at all, but still, that doesn't mean missed potential is any less disappointing. Thankfully, the rest of the episode more than makes up for it. Speaking of which, let's get back to that. So we then get a montage of Twilight deciding where she should send Starlight, with a little splice of Discord being Discord. Now I am very thankful that they kept this back and forth to just this one scene, otherwise it would have gotten really annoying and really repetitive. Intersplicing a separate story into your main story is going to do nothing but break up the flow and make things very repetitive, and I am setting myself up for failure, aren't I? We'll cross that bridge when we get to Bottled Up. We first start with Twilight thinking she should send Starlight to the Changeling Empire, but Twilight immediately thinks it's a bad idea because one bad changing could mess the whole thing up. Actually, now that I think about it, that's kind of a valid criticism. What the hell is stopping any of the changelings from just being a bad apple? It's actually a very nice believable level where Twilight's thinking of something that's a little out of the realm of possibility, but at the same time is a valid concern. I bring this up because there's actually a very interesting escalation when it comes to this. Where basically each location Twilight thinks of, the situation gets worse and worse and more out of the realm of possibility. And Spike, being a surrogate for the audience, points this out and brings some nice self-aware humor to it. Actually, as a side note, the comedy is actually very strong in this episode. I rather like it. Double side note, bonus points for including Sinadre Dragon. Very nice. But then after the last one, where Starlight sucks herself into nothingness, Jesus, that got dark fast. Celestia starts laughing her butt off. Thankfully, it's not for the reason you might think, which is good because I don't think Celestia could pull off Joker. And Celestia explains that she was actually in the same boat Twilight was, worrying her butt off. And then we get to easily, in my opinion, the best part of this entire episode. This entire exposition scene easily elevates this from an above average episode to a great episode. First of all, Nicole Oliver, I gotta give you major props for this. You did an amazing job with your voice acting talent in this, showing a wide variety of emotions in only a couple minutes. All the happiness, sadness, and wisdom are all contained perfectly here. Oh, but that's just the beginning. Then we get the backstory to Celestia, where not only do we get an explanation as to what happened before Twilight was sent away, but we even even get some more characterization for Celestia herself. And it's much needed. Not only does it just add some more characterization for Celestia, which she sorely needs, but it even, for lack of a better term, humanizes her, makes her much more relatable and more down to earth, as opposed to the godlike celestial being we all think she is. But it also shows how much Celestia truly loved and cared for Twilight, which is actually very touching. And then finally, there's also the final conclusion that's been reached, that the whole reason Twilight's been freaking out isn't because she's worried about Starlight Glimmer's next step, it's because he doesn't want to give her up and let her go. Which is honestly incredibly relatable and a very good message that sometimes you need to let people go. You need to let them go and let them make their own decisions in life. But I think what I like most about it is that the episode has been very subtly hinting at this conclusion the entire episode. What do I mean by that? Well, rewatch the episode and look very closely at the parts where Twilight was imagining what Starlight would be doing. Every single time, the crazy stuff only happened after Twilight realized Starlight would be gone a long time. Very nice subtlety episode, I really like that. So anyway, Twilight finally comes to the conclusion that Celestia sent Twilight away because he still needs to learn about friendship and expand, and Starlight already has made so many friends that she really doesn't need to do that. So Twilight realizes that Starlight's final step is that she has to graduate. Twilight and Starlight are no longer teacher and student, they're equals now. However, despite that, Starlight has no intention of leaving because of the bonds he's developed with Twilight. Which I rather like, it's a good explanation as to why Starlight won't just up and leave. And then we get a rather touching scene where Twilight gives a present to Starlight, and then the episode ends. Now, I'm not even joking, the episode ends, there's no cliffhanger for an ultimate villain, nothing like that, there's not even a major conflict. It's just an inexplicable little slice of life event. Now, I'm certain some people are gonna get really annoyed by this, but personally, I love that they switched the formula up. Because let's face it, one of the biggest problems with the last season premiere is that it felt like they were forcing a two-part conflict just to have a two-part conflict. And to be perfectly honest, I'd rather have no action and a very well-constructed story than a story that just feels like they're having a conflict to have a conflict. Now I know what you're thinking, well, this isn't an epic two-parter and there's no reason to have a second half, how are they going to continue this? Short answer, they don't. I'm not even kidding, the next episode has literally nothing to do with this one. Again, I don't mind that there's no big epic two-part conflict this time. But since it was still treated as a two-parter and they're still being short back-to-back, I'm still going to review this episode anyway. So next up is All Bottled Up, and it looks like it's gonna be a Starlight and Trixie episode. Interesting. We really haven't gotten much development into Trixie and Starlight's friendship. The episode starts in the castle's kitchen as Trixie is trying to perform some new magic. As soon as Starlight manages to help Trixie perform the new spell, Trixie goes completely banana balls and turns everything into teacups. Right off the bat, I can immediately compliment the comedy in this episode. It is top notch, even funnier than the last episode. But it looks like there's some tension going between Starlight and Trixie's friendship as Starlight is getting pretty friggin' mad at Trixie. Not helping is that Trixie is apparently trying to impose herself as the princess of snacks. Oh come on Starlight, pretzels make anything better, you should know that. Apparently she doesn't, as dark clouds start emanating from her horn. Yikes. I think what I love most about this is that you think this is going to be a one-off joke, but no, it actually becomes a central part of the episode. Oh yeah, and we also get an explanation as to why the main six aren't going to be in this episode. Apparently they're going to a friendship retreat. Another thing that I like is that we actually get some explanation as to where Spike is and what he's doing throughout this episode, as opposed to just, you know, ignoring the poor guy. So now it's time for Trixie to learn some more magic. But before we go any further, I want to bring up this nice little freeze frame bonus we get right here with the comic book. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's an Archie comic cover I'm seeing right there. That's a very nice attention to detail that you can only get if you pause the episode at certain points after rewatching it. But anyway, Trixie is ready to teleport the apple away when all of a sudden she teleports the friggin' table away. Who cares, you barely used it anyway, why bother even trying to find it? I guess some things you just can't get rid of. Oh yeah, and of course Trixie acts like a complete pompous ass throughout the entire episode about it, being completely oblivious to Starlight's feelings and to the fact that she did something completely horrible. Now I know people who find Trixie absolutely insufferable in this episode, but for me personally there's two reasons why I don't. Number one is that it's just the right level of annoying that it's actually kind of hilarious. And two is an explanation I'll get to later in the episode when we actually get to it. But until then, Starlight's rage is literally emanating from her body, and so she decides to bottle up her rage because she doesn't want to lose Trixie. Yes, all the metaphors this episode can display are taken to the most literal extreme possible, and it's kind of funny. And also, I do like an explanation as to why Spike isn't in the rest of the episode. He's also looking for the table. It is nice to have at least given some explanation as opposed to just completely forgetting him altogether. And so Starlight and Trixie decide to try and find the table, and meanwhile it's interspliced with the main six trying to solve a puzzle. Yeah, okay, I hinted at this at the beginning of my reviews, so let's talk about this. These back and forths, they are annoying. They do nothing but distract from the flow of the episode and add absolutely absolutely nothing to it narrative-wise. Now look, I know why they're there in the first place. It's to show the different friendship levels between the main six and Starlight, Glimmer, and Trixie. The problem is we kind of already figured that out. We know their friendship has a long way to go because we barely seen them together in season 6. Meanwhile, the main six have been friends for 7 seasons, or at the bare minimum at least over a year. So it doesn't say enough meaningful or add anything to the final narrative of the story. Honestly, the only thing it has going for it is that it has some decent comedy to it, but certainly not enough to justify its existence, and it's honestly overshadowed by the comedy in the A storyline, which is a billion times better. The only justification I could think of for its existence is the song, which is kinda decent honestly, but again, the song is ultimately pointless and doesn't serve anything other than showing that the main six's friendship is stronger than Trixie and Starlight's, which again is still ultimately pointless. Honestly, this could not be more like padding unless you coated the entire episode in bubble wrapping. I'm sorry I have to harp on this so much because I think the episode more than makes up for it, but this is writing 101. If something does not further your story's narrative, if it does not lead to character development, and if it isn't at least funny, it is padding, and padding is pointless because it does not do anything. Maybe if the comedy wasn't so good in the A storyline, this wouldn't be a problem for me, and who knows, maybe someone does think it's funny enough that it justifies its existence, but for me, no, it does not. It is pointless, it is padding, and it should have been cut. Okay, mini rant over, let's get back to the episode proper. Finally, Starlight drops the bottle and her anger ends up affecting other ponies, and they proceed to beat the ever-loving snot out of Trixie. This is the other reason why I think Trixie's ego in this episode is not really that bad, because she at least gets her comeuppance, which makes putting up with Trixie all worth it in my opinion, because no matter how annoying she was, this is cathartic as all hell to finally see her get her comeuppance, to finally be told off and that she's only making things worse. Not to mention, it's just damn friggin' funny. The pinnacle of comedy in this episode is right here when Trixie is getting her comeuppance. But anyway, Starlight finally snaps at Trixie and tells her everything that she needs to hear. And then we finally get our moral of the episode, that it's not healthy to bottle up your anger and emotions towards someone. If your friendship is truly as strong as it is, then it's more powerful than just some mean words, and you need to tell them what they need to hear, otherwise they're just gonna get worse. And it's better than letting it crack and seep into other people before they get mad at the person, and now there's a whole group of people mad at them for something that you could have just solved right then and there by telling them. Honestly, this is a great, unbelievably relatable moral. Honestly, it's kind of enough to save it from a 4 out of 6 with those sloppy back and forths. Who am I kidding? It's the crazy amount of shipping fuel that gets it a 5 out of 6. Seriously, you use words like love and have them hug it out like that, this is shipping fuel to the maximum. But anyway, now that everything's resolved, Trixie finally remembers where she put the table, and apparently it was at the spot where they met, where we actually get a very touching moment. And it looks like the table is back to normal and everything is safe. And that was Celestial Advice and all bottled up, overall incredibly solid premiere episodes. Yeah, it's not the super adventure storylines we're used to, but it breaks out the formula in the best way possible, giving us something much different from the standard formula we've gotten used to and shaking things up, which I think is a good thing. And even without that, the episodes stand incredibly solid on their own even without that fact. Celestial Advice gave us a nice little conclusion to Starlight Glimmer's mini arc in season 6 and brought her up from student up to equal. Not to mention it had some good comedy to it, it was fun to see Discord, but above all else, that Celestia scene made the episode. And all bottled up was very fun and very funny, with a very great ending moral that's very relatable and very important. And it was actually very fun to see Starlight and Trixie's friendship grow so much. Honestly, all that stuff is so good, it honestly makes up for the sloppy back and forths despite my rant towards it. Actually, come to think of it, before I give my final rating, I just noticed something. The first episode was all about a main 6 member, and the next episode was all about Starlight. I wonder if we're gonna get back and forths episodes like this. And honestly, if we do, I 100% welcome it. One of the biggest problems with season 6 was that Starlight was barely in it, despite being the official, unofficial next main character and, you know, Twilight's pupil. Having it be back and forths like this would honestly be kind of effective. It would keep our focus on the main 6 ponies we know and love, while at the same time giving Starlight Glimmer more development. One doesn't overpower the other and gives everyone what they want. Everyone wins. Now obviously they're probably not gonna actually do that, but hell, a man can dream, I suppose. But in any case, all that being said, I'm gonna give Celestial Advice and All Bottled Up a 5 out of 6. Incredibly solid premiere and incredibly promising for this season. And next time guys, we get Flurry of Emotions, the possible return of Princess Flurryard, and also the potential for Baby Kicks 2.0. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. In any case, I'm the Watchful Pony, and this is Why I Brony. I'll see you guys next time.
She can feel herself near animals, so tries away from her own kind. What can I mention? Picky pie and the way she kind of acts a bit like me sometimes. You see, I used to hate that I liked My Little Pony. Not anymore. And I'm proud to be a pony.
Can't hear you. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. faithful student, Twilight Star.
Can you explode twice?
It needs to be about 20% cooler. Are you?
I don't want to talk about it.
And they tried to make me feel